Imagine for a moment if the very components that power our lives, perhaps the next critical part for an iPhone, the advanced battery for an electric vehicle, or even the powerful engine in your brand new Ford were no longer manufactured in distant lands like China, Vietnam, or India. Instead, what if these essential goods were being produced right next door, just across America's southern border? Specifically in Mexico, a profound transformation is quietly underway, with America meticulously re-engineering its entire global supply chain. Factories are being relocated, and an astonishing amount of capital, billions of dollars, is now changing hands and geographic locations. This massive logistical and financial shift has the potential to fundamentally impact everything from the prices consumers ultimately pay to the types of jobs available domestically and even the intricate dynamics at the U.S. Mexico border itself. This isn't mere speculation or a hypothetical scenario. It is, in fact, an undeniable reality already in full swing. Once you fully grasp the scope of this monumental shift, it becomes impossible to ignore. For almost 3 decades, the global economy operated on a remarkably straightforward premise. China served as the undisputed manufacturing hub of the world. Businesses seeking highly affordable labor, the capacity for immense production scale, and rapid manufacturing turnaround times instinctively turned to China. American corporations didn't merely outsource specific tasks, they intricately designed their entire operational frameworks and business models around China's unparalleled industrial capabilities. However, that once stable global paradigm is now rapidly fragmenting. The initial cracks appeared when the COVID-19 pandemic caused widespread port closures, leading to countless cargo ships being stranded and store shelves across the globe sitting disturbingly empty. Following this, a series of escalating geopolitical tensions emerged, including significant tariffs, contentious trade wars, and stringent technology bans. In this increasingly volatile environment, American CEOs began to confront a truly unsettling question. What if our foundational dependence on China is no longer a reliable strategy? To put this into stark perspective, consider the logistical realities. A factory situated in China is, on average, a formidable 7,000 miles distant. This vast separation translates directly into weeks of transit time aboard cargo ships. The inherent vulnerability of ports that can cease operations with little to no notice, and exposure to unpredictable geopolitical risks that are simply beyond any company's control. Now, contrast that complex scenario with the straightforward advantages offered by Mexico. A manufacturing facility in northern Mexico, for instance, is merely a truck journey away from U.S. markets. This eliminates the necessity of traversing vast oceans, entirely bypasses the chaotic shipping container crises that have plagued global trade, and eradicates the agonizing wait times that can stretch for months. This critical shift brings a new, defining term into our conversation: nearshoring. Rather than establishing manufacturing bases in distant foreign lands, companies are strategically relocating their production facilities significantly closer to their home markets. In this evolving landscape, Mexico emerges as an exceptionally well-placed and advantageous partner. This naturally leads to an obvious yet crucial question. If proximity is the primary driver, why aren't companies simply choosing to build their factories within the United States? The straightforward answer, while perhaps uncomfortable for some, is that labor costs in the US remain prohibitively high, exceptionally so. Mexico, however, presents a compelling and somewhat unique combination of advantages. It boasts significantly lower wages compared to the U.S., offers a readily available pool of skilled manufacturing workers, and possesses decades of valuable experience successfully collaborating with American businesses and understanding their operational needs. Furthermore, critically, the USMCA trade agreement, which superseded NAFTA, facilitates the entry of goods manufactured in Mexico into the U.S. market with substantially reduced tariffs. This powerful combination includes operating within the same time zone, utilizing the same established trucking networks, serving the very same customer base, all while incurring a dramatically different and much lower cost. This isn't merely theoretical speculation. These are concrete, real-world developments. Tesla, for instance, is actively constructing an enormous new factory in northern Mexico. Ford is significantly expanding its production capabilities within the country. and major global players like GM, BMW, Samsung, and LG are all either relocating operations or substantially scaling up their existing presence there. It's important to understand that these companies are not leaving China due to emotional sentiment or political whims. Their decisions are driven by a calculated strategy of de-risking their operations. While China undoubtedly remains an important player in global manufacturing, it is clearly no longer perceived as the sole viable option. Mexico is rapidly emerging as a critical and swiftly implemented backup plan. However, there's a crucial aspect of this transition that often gets overlooked. This isn't solely a matter of optimizing costs. It's fundamentally about regaining and securing operational control. The Chinese government possesses the unchecked authority to implement drastic measures, such as shutting down entire cities, altering regulations without warning, and imposing severe restrictions on data and technology flows. For American companies reliant on those operations, such a lack of predictability and control is profoundly unsettling, even terrifying. Mexico, conversely, presents a far more stable and cooperative environment. It operates securely within existing U.S. trade agreements. Its economy is heavily dependent on sustained American demand, and consequently, it possesses every imaginable incentive to collaborate closely and reliably. For CEOs, this level of predictability and partnership offers a profound sense of security. And in today's unpredictable world, that sense of operational safety is, quite simply, priceless. Now, let's consider the direct implications for you, the consumer. Does this significant shift translate into immediately cheaper products? The frank and honest answer is, not right away. The initial stages of nearshoring involve substantial capital outlays, establishing entirely new factories, forging new and complex supply chains, and investing heavily in training a new workforce. Yet, what about the longer-term outlook? Over time, these investments promise significant returns. Fewer disruptive shipping delays, substantially reduced logistics expenses, and diminished risks associated with tariffs. Ultimately, this leads to more stable and predictable pricing for goods. While we might not see the dirt-cheap prices reminiscent of the early days of manufacturing in China, consumers can expect considerably less inflation shock. In essence, a consistent and reliable supply chain fundamentally triumphs over chaos. Here lies perhaps the most controversial, yet potentially transformative, aspect of this entire shift. The establishment of these factories in Mexico inherently creates more jobs within Mexico, and, crucially, the availability of stable employment opportunities profoundly alters migration patterns. When individuals can secure a respectable and sustainable livelihood in their home country, far fewer feel compelled to undertake the perilous journey and risk everything attempting to cross the border. While this strategy won't miraculously resolve complex immigration issues overnight, it undeniably shifts fundamental incentives. A more robust and prosperous Mexican economy directly translates to reduced desperation among its populace, which in turn alleviates significant pressure at the U.S.-Mexico border. Ironically, therefore, investing in and building manufacturing facilities within Mexico might ultimately achieve far more effective and humane results than any physical border wall ever could. However, it's vital not to romanticize this emerging reality. Mexico still grapples with considerable challenges, including persistent issues with crime, significant infrastructure deficiencies, and concerns regarding energy reliability. Furthermore, and importantly, an over-reliance on any single manufacturing hub, as America painfully learned with China, is inherently dangerous. Therefore, the overarching objective isn't simply for Mexico to permanently replace China as the sole global factory. Instead, the true aim is strategic diversification, forging a resilient supply chain that possesses the flexibility to bend and adapt without ever completely breaking. To fully appreciate the magnitude of this shift, we must zoom out and consider the broader context. This isn't merely a story about relocating factories. It signifies the drawing of an entirely new global economic map. It represents a fundamental transition in how the world approaches commerce, moving strategically from a singular focus on hyper-efficiency towards prioritizing robust resilience. In essence, it marks a quiet, yet profound, reset of globalization itself. China undeniably dominated the previous chapter of global manufacturing. However, Mexico is now poised to potentially lead the next, at least within the North American sphere. So, The next time you encounter a product proudly stamped "Made in Mexico," resist the outdated notion of simply cheap labor. Instead, consider it a symbol of shorter, more reliable supply chains, a fundamental reshaping of border dynamics, and a world actively applying the hard-won lessons from its past mistakes. This evolving scenario certainly does not signal the complete demise of China's economic power. However, it definitively marks the end of America's precarious over-reliance on a single factory of the world. And the future of American manufacturing, it's actively being constructed right now, just a few hours' drive south of the Texas border. The crucial question isn't whether this monumental shift will transform America. It is, rather, just how rapidly these changes will unfold.